This video is over 1 hour long. You heard me right. It's over 1 hour long. I don't know if I should just split it into parts, right? There's going to be 6 parts of it. Each just 10 minutes, I guess.
Smart Pizza's with you. In this
And this title is called 100 Last Known Photos of Animals That Went Extinct. There's a Skullcrawler and King Kong over here.
episode, you'll see 100 last photos of the animals that have died out recently. My subscriber sent me this photo, assuring that he shot this beast in the last century, but decided to solve this mystery only now. What a beast is it? Its muzzle looks
What a beast. This is probably an edited photo.
like that of a dinosaur.
Oh my god, this T-Rex.
Claws and body like that of a boar or rhino. Maybe it's some abnormal hybrid. Write your opinion in the comments. Gigantopithecus. Being big is very...
Just casually showing King Kong. Gigantopithecus is more like a giant orangutan. Just show an orangutan. That would have been better.
comfortable. You can eat whatever you want, walk wherever you like. In general, you'll not have any problems and worries at all. A huge number of ancient animals followed this path, and our ancestor, the largest primate in history,
Our ancestor. I don't think Gigantopithecus is our ancestor. I think our ancestors consist of stuff like the Australopithecus.
Gigantopithecus was no exception. To make you realize how big it was, take a look at this last picture.
This is most probably edited.
After which, none of people has ever been able to capture these creatures. It was probably the last encounter between man and Gigantopithecus in history. I wonder how the creature didn't show any aggression at all and held back.
Because that is meant to be a King Kong recreation, right?
Man is so tiny in comparison with it, isn't he? Let's compare Gigantopithecus to other creatures. For example, it weighed as much as 3 gorillas. Can you imagine that? Gigantopithecus also had a jaw perfectly sharpened for chewing tough stems. It was this nuance that turned Gigantopithecus into a walking bamboo processing factory. And thanks to the size, a pack of hungry giants.
Why don't you show an orangutan instead? That would have been a bit more convincing. Instead of just showing a gorilla like the Gigantopithecus is depicted as in the mainstream.
Giant primates easily took food from other fans of eating high and tough grass, pandas. However, do not think that pandas and other animals united to take revenge on Gigantopithecus. Not at all. The colossal primate probably disappeared from the face of the earth due to its gigantic size and dietary preferences. Unlike pandas and gorillas, Gigantopithecus had to eat more frequently and for longer periods of time. This led to a slower metabolism, a potential killer in the unstable world of the Pleistocene era. In addition, their weight prevented them from climbing trees, so they had to eat only food from the ground. As you can imagine, that wasn't enough.
When you write, your tone influences how readers respond. With Grammarly, just highlight your text and...
Big Gertie. Next, I will...
just show King Kong once again.
Not talk about such an ancient creature as Gigantopithecus, but it's definitely worth your attention. I'm talking about a rhino, but not a simple one, but the biggest one in history. None of the people have ever encountered larger individuals in their lives.
This is meant to be the woolly rhino, right?
This legendary event
no, this is not woolly rhino, but okay, this is a bit...
took place in 1950.
Is this supposed to be 2 rhinos or just 1?
In Amboseli National Park.
There's 2.
One of the most visited in Kenya, where the famous Mount Kilimanjaro is located. Surprisingly, until 2 years ago, this very place was considered popular with hunters, and ordinary people zealously protested against this outrage. Their requests were heard. The place was protected, and the rhinos, along with other animals, have not ceased to be in a trusting relationship with us. They were not used to us, which is why they were not afraid of people at all, and even let them get close to them.
This is most definitely a movie clip.
This peculiarity helped people to make this interesting picture of the largest rhino in history.
Largest rhino in history. No, that already went extinct.
Rhinos are generally very large, but even so, Gertie stood out from the crowd with her.
Gertie. The only thing I found was Gertie is Gertie the dinosaur, and just a cartoon character, an image of a cartoon character.
Incredible size. Lonesome George. Let's start with some rather sad news. The tortoise you see in this picture here is a Galapagos tortoise. George was the only member of the Pinta Island tortoise subspecies. The animal was a symbol of the Galapagos Islands. Everyone tried to help him in one way or another, but it was all to no avail. Leading a solitary life and leaving no offspring, George passed away, thus completing the history of its subspecies.
My time has come.
Just show Uguay. Just casually show Uguay, right? Lonesome George. This is actually correct here, because the Pinta Island tortoise, Lonesome George, went extinct. Lonesome George passed away, and then the subspecies went extinct.
Although the tortoise was more than 100 years old at the time of death, scientists believe that representatives of this subspecies may retain the ability to have offspring even at 200 years old. This lonely tortoise was discovered on Pinta Island in 1972. The animal was named after an American actor, and people decided the tortoise to get married with other tortoise. But
was that supposed to be Lonesome George, or is that another tortoise?
not everything turned out to be successful. At one time, scientists believed that George was not capable of reproduction at all, but this was not the case. The loner was guarded as best as they could. They pleased him in every possible way and waited for offspring from him, but 40 years of such a life came to an end, and the animal died in the status of a bachelor. But the procreation was so close, and it was necessary, not just for fun. Studying the genes of George and his relatives, scientists have come to the conclusion that their genome holds the key to lengthening our life and even immortality. In addition, tortoises are known for their resistance to cancer. I hope the researchers will still find a representative similar to Giant George and resurrect the subspecies.
Oh no, not another Hero Wars ad. There's going to be a lot of ads. This video is 1 hour long.
Quagga. I'm sure that almost none of you have ever heard of this beautiful and interesting zebra in your life.
I've heard of it.
And you should have heard about it. Known for its unique facial expression and striped coloration, the quagga was endemic to South Africa. In the 19th century, it was distributed over vast areas, but its population began to decline dramatically due to hunting and habitat loss because of population expansion. The last wild quagga passed away in 1878, and the last quagga in principle died at the Amsterdam Zoo in 1883. Unfortunately, quaggas were not properly studied before they disappeared. There are only a few pictures and a couple of preserved skins, but this is not enough to fully reconstruct the image of this animal. However, thanks to modern technology, genetic work has been done which has shown that the quagga is a subspecies of the Burchell's zebra and can be preserved by restoring the population.
Burchell's zebra, aka the Plains zebra, is the most common and geographically widespread species of zebra.
By the way, do you know why the zebra was named that? It's because of the distinctive and amusing sound it makes. The alarming cry was very reminiscent of the word quag, which is why the animal was named so. But there are also mysteries that humans have not yet solved. For example, the coloration of the quagga. It's known that these stripes of zebras help individuals to merge into the dazzle, which makes it difficult for predators to hunt them. Also, in modern zebras, the number and distinctness of stripes decreases depending on the geographic location of the population. For example, southern animals and inhabitants of more arid territories have fewer stripes. Over time, evidence has emerged that striped coloration effectively scares away horseflies and gadflies. But this begs the question, after all, quaggas lived in the south. I would even say we're the southernmost zebras. So why did they need such a clear and bright coloration? According to the hypothesis, such coloration played an important role in social life. In mixed dazzles, when fleeing from predators, different subspecies stayed with their congeners. Carolina parakeet. This feathered creature could survive in the snows of North America, but ironically was exterminated by simple American farmers. The parrot lived
and you showed guns. That those are supposed to be hunters and not farmers. Maybe farmers had the guns?
The southeastern coast of North America and even in the central and northern United States. With its thick plumage and advanced food-finding skills, the Carolina parakeet had no need to migrate in the winter. It seemed that this species could live forever, but in the 18th century, trouble came from where no one expected it. One day, a flock of Carolina parakeets flew into the center of the city and seriously disturbed the locals with their noise. They scared everyone so much that many people took this behavior as the beginning of the apocalypse or something equally horrible. However, nothing bad happened. For humans, Carolina
is supposed to be a movie thing, right?
Parakeets, on the other hand, became the main object of hunting, and people began to shoot the birds. Besides superstition, there were many.
It's such an unfortunate fate for those Carolina parakeets, man. They didn't deserve this.
Other reasons for the extermination. Farmers hunted the parrots because they were ruining their plantations. And clothing manufacturers did it for feathers, for hats, which were fashionable at the time. Some, of course, did not follow the trend and continued to care for these cute creatures, but it was something very rare.
This is definitely not a clip here. And this is definitely a clip without not the Carolina parakeet.
It's not for nothing that this photo is considered one of the last to feature a Carolina parakeet. After 1926, these birds were never seen.
1918, right? 1918.
Tasmanian wolf. And here's a picture of another animal that's nowhere to be found today. This is a Tasmanian wolf, and the photo was taken in 1936 in the Tasmanian city of Hobart. What's even sadder is that this photo was taken in September, just a few months after Tasmanian wolves were put under protection. However, no sooner had people taken meaningful steps than the last member of the species followed its congeners to the
Is this artificially colored? I feel like this is artificially colored.
other world. However, it's not surprising. Fearing the formidable local predator that allegedly threatened livestock, the Tasmanian government declared a merciless war on the thylacine, as the Tasmanian wolf was also known. Hunters who provided the heads of killed animals as evidence were given bonuses.
Beginning in 19th century, they were perceived as a threat to the livestock of farmers, and bounty hunting was introduced. And then, so basically, the thylacine, like a lot of animals here, a lot of more modern animals, not the Gigantopithecus, by the way, they were all hunted to death by humans.
Outrage lasted for just under 100 years, during which time the population dropped to critical levels. Barbary lion.
I think 9 minutes 53 seconds is going to be enough for today. So, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. See you all next. Picking back on where we left off. Barbary lion.
Unfortunately, no matter how strong and independent.
This is a thylacine. This feels like a thylacine instead of a Barbary lion.
Dependent an animal is, like wolves or even lions.
Also, forgot to correct this, but it's called a Tasmanian tiger. The thylacine is called a Tasmanian tiger, not a Tasmanian wolf.
Lions, no one can stand up to humans with their weapons. And so this animal was exterminated. The last free-living Barbary lion was shot dead in the Moroccan part of the Atlas Mountains in 1922. And this is a picture where the animal is not yet aware of its terrible fate.
It is taken in 1893. So around 70 years before
the body length of these beauties reached 9 feet, and according to other reports, it was even closer to 11 feet. The weight of large males could reach up to 1,000 pounds. They hunted ungulates and were decorated with a thick, dark mane. In general, they felt great until Europeans came to Africa in the 17th century. At first, people shot the lion's food, but by doing so, they forced the lions to attack their own livestock. And this became a reason for the people to come into conflict with the lions themselves.
These animals, it does explore the relationship between humans and other animals. Like, these animals are just not great.
Some species have disappeared irretrievably and remain only on the pages of history, and some only on the page doing so.
I wasn't aware of it.
Some species have disappeared irretrievably and remain.
Thylacine. Okay. Barbary lion was a population of the lion subspecies Panthera leo. Panthera leo is still around today.
Remain only on the pages of history, and some can be brought back to life thanks to modern technology. Woolly mammoth. Mammoths are
Woolly mammoth. Woolly mammoth went extinct a super long time before photos even existed.
long extinct creatures. Today, they're only talked about in books or drawn in animated movies. However, such pragmatic people as scientists decided to correct this misunderstanding. It occurred to them to resurrect a creature that lived tens of thousands of years ago. With the extinction of these giants, the rich, flowering mammoth steppes disappeared, on which other large herbivores also fed. Wild horses, musk oxen, moose. Where they used to live, I mean in the tundra, now there's nothing but frost and ruined flora.
Just get to the quote-unquote photo of the mammoth. There is no real photo of the mammoth.
Of course, it had to be solved. In 2008, a group of Russian scientists set out to do just that. They used found fossils and deciphered their DNA. It was time to restore the mammoth, and 3 years later, the process was 70% complete. It took another 3 years, and now the scientists were already transplanting the DNA they'd recovered into an African bush elephant. And no, nothing like what happened in cartoons or movies happened.
This does not even classify as a photo at this point. It's just classified as some sort of restoration.
The animal didn't mutate into a woolly mammoth before scientists' eyes. Scientists encountered incomprehensible problems that prevented the experiment from succeeding. However, the research team is unlikely to give up on the task. At the very least, they are inspired by others who are already thinking about this discovery in their fields. For example, residents of Russian Yakutia have been specifically
Yakutia. It's called Yakutia. These American pronunciations are just not good. This guy's just proving the point of American stereotypical pronunciations.
preparing a new home for this beast in recent years and are gradually restoring vegetation. Bdelloid rotifers. Now we're going to talk about those organisms, the mere name of which repels. They resemble the most common parasites that feed on someone's blood. However, if it's commonly to destroy parasites and remove them, then on the contrary, they try to resurrect these creatures. And in fact, after reading about their features, I can't understand how these rotifers need anyone's help at all.
Because they don't. They just live on their own. They live on their own. They have their own way of living, like any other organism has.
The fact is, they were incredibly resilient. They didn't care about drought, frost, lack of food, or even oxygen. In such unreal conditions, bedelloid rotifers curled up in a ball and slowed down the process of life activity to a minimum, staying in anticipation of all the best. And then, one day, that moment in their life came. They curled up in a ball and waited, and waited again. As a result, this process lasted more than 24,000 years, until scientists found them in the permafrost. Of course, humans took them to much more favorable conditions.
And you're not showing photos of that thing. You're showing videos and clips.
And guess what? The rotifers immediately resurrected and came back to life, as if they hadn't waited 20,000 years for anything. Previously,
which is cool. Which is quite cool, to be honest.
Scientists believed that these creatures could last 10 years, but now the result's been surpassed thousands of times. The researchers additionally made sure that
more specifically, around 24,000 times.
They found really ancient rotifers. Their
not 24,000 times, sorry, 2,400 times.
Genetic material was markedly different from the DNA of modern animals. Selecting 144 revived multicellular organisms at random, the scientists again froze them at -15 degrees Celsius. The ancient rotifers were able to survive again, although they weren't much more frost-resistant than their modern congeners. Hit the like button if you'd like to have such a superpower.
Oh, you're now just showing a movie clip. This video is supposed to be educational, by the way. And you're just casually showing a Hollywood clips that just don't help your case.
Pyrenean ibex.
Pyrenean ibex. The Pyrenean ibex. This is cloned in 2003.
By the way, if any of you still think that neither mammoths nor any other creatures can be recovered by humans, that revival is simply unrealistic, and scientists will only breed a new species anyway, just listen to this story. In the year 2000, the last individual of the Pyrenean ibex subspecies, also known as the bucardo, died. It seemed that was the end of this creature. But fortunately for scientists, some researchers back in the 90s took a few skin cells from a female named Celia for the purpose of analysis and preservation in liquid nitrogen. As you can imagine, this came in handy for biologists, and they were able to reconstruct Celia's DNA, transfer it to domestic goat cells, and obtain about 1,500 embryos. Out of so many options, however, the scientists were lucky in only one case. Just one embryo went through the entire developmental cycle, and the animal was born.
But the animal later suffered from birth defects, from a lung defect. So, yeah. It came back and then went extinct.
Unfortunately, as often happens in such stories, the creature died quickly due to lung deformities.
It's quite hard to actually bring an extinct creature back to life.
However, the very fact that it was born and had a chance to live allows scientists to hope for the recovery of the entire population of the extinct Pyrenean ibex. Actually, it works the same way with other creatures, like it does with this one. Researchers at the Natural History Museum in London have recreated the singing of an animal that went completely extinct more than 115 years ago. The animal in question is a katydid species, which was a distant relative of the modern grasshopper and lived in northern India and Tibet. It was first described in 1869, and since then the creature has never been seen or heard of.
All right. This is called a Prophalangopsis obscura,
relative of the modern grasshopper, and lived in northern India and Tibet. It was first described in 1869, and since then the creature has never been seen or heard of.
This creature is not okay. This creature is a south insect genus. It's a winged thing, as you can see.
Only a single individual remains, which is preserved in a museum in London.
Okay.
Scientists went there, carefully studied this very individual, digitized it, and created a 3D model. Then, biologists studied in detail the structure of each wing of the katydid, which were responsible for the sound. Experts were able to determine the resonance frequency of the wings and recreate the sound of the insect's song. Because of the thicker wings and living in a cold climate, the creature produces a much lower and louder sound than grasshoppers know to all of us.
So this is one of those few cases where photo here, this claim is legitimate.
Now,
I don't know if it went extinct though.
a team of researchers is about to head to potential habitats of the katydid. If they can't find it here,
Just casually used Jurassic World Dominion out of all of those out of all clips, why use Dominion?
we'll set about recovering the species altogether.
Not Hero Wars ad.
Passenger pigeon.
The passenger pigeon. Yeah, I've heard of the passenger pigeon. The passenger pigeon is extinct. Unfortunate, but there are some attempts of cloning.
As practice shows, a creature like the katydid is not the only one that has wings and is missing.
Oh, all right. There is some passenger pigeon DNA research that could potentially result in some interbreeding.
Among the number of such creatures is the pigeon. No, of course, I don't mean just any pigeon. I'm talking about the so-called passenger members of the family. The date of its extinction is September 1st, 1914, when the last pigeon named Martha died at the Cincinnati Zoo. But the species had been extinct even earlier in the wild, and the last wild bird was shot in 1900. Since people are familiar with the saying,
That is called extinct in the wild. That means the animal is still there, but in the wild, the animal is no more. Not just any animal in general, any organism.
You brew, so must you drink. They have, as usual, started to revive the birds that they've killed. This work began more than 10 years ago. As a basis, scientists took a related species, the band-tailed pigeon. Generally, the restoration will consist of 5 stages. The first one is dedicated to deciphering and comparing the genomes of the 2 species. On the second stage, scientists will determine which genes in the genome of band-tailed pigeons will need to be edited. The third stage is the actual editing. As a result of the resurrection of the extinct species, birds should appear that are outwardly identical to band-tailed pigeons. But with a new genome, and after mating these birds, revived passenger pigeons will appear. The fourth stage involved the breeding of passenger pigeons in captivity, and at the fifth stage, they're planned to be released into the wild.
How would that work though? It's going to be quite a long process for the passenger pigeons if they are revived to adapt into the wild once again.
Resurrection of the pig. Well, this story obviously will
so this is yet another Hollywood movie clip.
Not leave anyone indifferent, so be careful. Its essence is that scientists from the US began to implement the idea of resurrecting dead organisms.
Jeez.
Sounds kind of optimistic and nothing portends trouble.
Oh, never mind. This is a...
However, animals were used for the tests in the first place, of course. What can scientists do without them?
The majority of the clips here are from Hollywood. There's only one actual real-life clip.
In particular, they began testing their device on pigs. The idea of the scientists was that if the creature dies, its heart stops and blood stops circulating.
Okay. The pig did not go extinct, so this is technically not a legitimate spot.
However, the organs are still intact for a while and can potentially work. In this case, it's worth focusing not on the heart, but to offer the body a new engine that will temporarily replace it. To do this, scientists came up with a machine that speeds up the blood in the body and supplies it with additional substances that help in this process. Their machine pumped blood through the entire body, mimicking the pulse. It also fed both the brain and the heart. The 100 pigs that were purchased for the tests died. However, they still had attempts to resurrect. At times, the pigs' limbs twitched, or they came to their senses for a short time. Scientists consider this a great success and continue their research in this area. It's not always the case that people only resurrect those creatures which are long gone. Sometimes it's worthwhile to look at what's happening now and consider saving an endangered species. That's exactly what scientists did with the black-footed ferret.
This is supposed to be animals that went extinct, and I'm sorry, but the black-footed ferret is not extinct.
The cute creature you see.
It's just an endangered species.
The extinction of the black-footed ferret was due to ranchers shooting and poisoning prairie dogs.
Okay. Actually, it went extinct in 1979, but a residual... It didn't actually go extinct. It was declared extinct in 1979, but a residual wild population was discovered in Meeteetse, Wyoming in 1981.
Which these predators fed on. Since 1979, the black-footed ferret had been thought to be extinct, but in 1981, a ranch dog in Wyoming brought home the body of the animal.
And so it did not actually go extinct.
Then scientists collected the remaining population of 130 individuals, and despite the fact that most of them died, they still managed to recreate new representatives of the species. For this purpose, the DNA of an animal that died more than 30 years ago was used.
Oh no. I thought I was going to end part 2 here, but I guess we're going to have to go with a laggy ad. A monster from the past. Well, part 3 is going to start off absolutely great. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all in part... A monster from the past, part 3.
Past. In a small town...
Okay, this is yet another movie clip.
Buried in a dense forest...
I don't know if it's Hollywood, but... it kind of feels like it once again. Does it feel like Hollywood? I don't know, but... it feels like it's just another movie clip.
A lonely explorer who loved nature. The man dreamed during one of his regular expeditions to encounter an ancient monster. Someone that no human had ever seen before. And he succeeded. The photograph you're looking at was taken in the middle of the 20th century. It shows this very traveler and either a tiger or a crocodile.
Is this supposed to be some sort of edit thing? That this is... I don't think it's editing, but I think it's just a regular old sculpture.
Or maybe even some crossbreed of abnormal size. To be honest, the image causes me a wave of emotions.
Oh my God!
But at the crest of this wave, there's doubt, of course. Doubt that it's all true. After all, how can such a tiny man have so much...
Use the Avatar. Used a clip from Avatar. That's a bit of a weird decision.
confidence in the good mood of the monster. It could have grabbed him at any moment and devoured him, and no one would have helped the man. In any case, the picture looks pretty impressive. Write in the comments what you think about it.
Decent editing, though.
Laysan Rail. Up until the 9th century, the island of Laysan was a paradise for animals, and especially for birds. First of all, they were very abundant, which made it easy for them to find a mate for their offspring.
Laysan Rail, is it? Yes, it is.
Secondly, birds had no problem with food shortage and lived in ideal conditions.
Another cartoon. Once again, there's a casually shown cartoon thinking that no repercussions will be there. Sorry.
The creature I'm talking about, the Laysan Rail, became so lazy on this paradise island that it lost the ability to fly and began to simply walk on the ground. And if this bird had been large, like the eagle, I could understand it. But it was a little bigger than the palm of my hand. After a while, all sorts of people began to come to the island massively. They were gathering raw materials, exploring the territory, In general, everyone came for their own reasons, and the Laysan rail needed to know what people wanted.
These look much more like chickens than Laysan rails.
The bird could not fly, as you remember, so it just ran out towards people and jumped almost under their feet. At the same time, the Laysan rail was not afraid of anyone and was even ready to steal meat from people's tables. For some time, people didn't pay attention to it, but soon the priorities of raw material collectors changed, and they began to catch these birds. This is where the Laysan rail found itself in an unenviable position. As a result, the species is officially considered extinct.
It became extinct due to the habitat loss by domestic rabbits and ultimately World War II.
People tried to correct this situation, but all attempts were in vain.
They haven't shown a photo of a Laysan rail. Hero Wars ad. I've seen this ad like a gazillion times already. It's the third time that I saw this ad pop up in this video.
Zanzibar leopard. And now I'll talk about an animal that's most likely extinct. The chances of this are great, but they're not 100%, and this cannot but rejoice. The Zanzibar leopard is endemic to the island of Unguja, also known as Zanzibar Island in African Tanzania. Scientists have come to the opinion that because of the remote location of the island where the leopard lived, it could not interbreed with other individuals and formed a separate family line, becoming a separate subspecies of the classical leopard. In the past, if scientific articles are to be believed, the Zanzibar leopard was smaller than other leopard subspecies with a slimmer build and shorter legs. It's also believed that its fur was darker and thicker than that of the others. It was first encountered in the 19th century, but this did not become the way into the study of the new subspecies. Rather, on the contrary, because of it, people went in search of other leopards, but they never managed to encounter them. The last known Zanzibar leopard came to the attention of observers in the early 1980s, and in the next 10 years, the subspecies was declared extinct.
And again, clips just nabbed from a movie clip.
However, in 2018, a camera trap set up by researchers captured an image of a lone leopard on the island. In all likelihood, it was the Zanzibar leopard subspecies.
It renewed hopes for the population's survival, although some experts remain skeptical.
People immediately
It isn't really back from extinction.
followed its trail,
It can't really be classified as back from extinction because it wasn't.
but never found anything.
It wasn't actually extinct.
Perhaps these animals adapted to the conditions better than others,
Although, again, some experts remain skeptical. So, this animal status is up in the air.
and came up with amazing hiding places, camouflaged from the eyes of strangers. In fact, it's not just the video evidence that suggests the procreation of this unique leopard. There are virtually no other predators on the island where it lives. In theory, this should create a special environment for it where it will have no equals and it will be able to develop successfully and without any problems.
You're just using another species of leopard.
Golden toad.
Golden toad. Jeez. I don't think I've heard of that in ages. Actually, isn't that the same image from that conservation status thingy, whatever, Wikipedia thing?
Well, predators were created to survive even in difficult conditions. But let's better take a closer look at this unusual toad. These creatures are usually quite hard to see. They have a dark green color, easily blend in with the terrain, and jump quickly. But the individual I'll talk to you about stands out from the crowd. It's the golden toad, and no one painted it that color on
It is an extinct species of true toad.
purpose. It was first encountered in the middle of the 20th century, but only 20 years have passed since its discovery, and these jumpers have never been seen again. Scientists have been studying the area around it for a long time, but have not gotten any leads and clues. It's likely that the golden toad became extinct, taking all the secrets and peculiarities of its existence with it into the next world. And this video was the last one on which it was noticed.
The golden toad is now classified as extinct as of 1989 and hasn't been upgraded since, indicating that it most likely has went extinct.
Toads of unusual color. Rare leopards.
You just showed the text of, let's see here. You just showed the text here, passenger pigeon. You should have corrected that.
Toads of unusual color. Rare leopards, and a certain giant from the past. All these creatures may disappear for quite logical reasons, but the one which permanent and eternal life I did not doubt was the pigeon.
Passenger pigeon. Again, right?
How could these feathered creatures ever disappear from the face of the earth? They have everything to maintain their population. Instincts, suitable habitat, ideal size, and skills. Although
hunted by humans.
Maybe the representative of the passenger pigeon species was different from something of this. The birds of this extinct species were about 16 inches long and constantly migrated.
And deforestation. It included hunting and deforestation.
In whole flocks in search of food and shelter. And you know, they did it very successfully. In the 18th and 19th centuries, these birds were almost the most numerous in North America. Their population reached 5 billion individuals. But no sooner had the 20th century arrived than everything changed. Hunting these birds was quite a natural occupation for the locals, which, in their opinion, did not harm nature and provided food. And real.
Nah, it harms nature because without the passenger pigeon, the food chain that the passenger pigeon would be just affected in definitely a negative way. We don't know what it is, but the predators are going to, the things that hunt the passenger pigeon, if there are any, their population will decrease, except for the humans, because the humans will always find a way. The prey of the passenger pigeon will increase. And if that actually makes sense, because I could be incredibly wrong here.
Really, is it possible to destroy such a large population of pigeons by hunting? Turns out it is. People paid attention too late to the already obvious reduction in the number of the passenger pigeon species, tried to introduce laws, but they were not clear enough, and no one had time to correct the situation. The last nest and egg found in the wild were collected in 1895 near Minneapolis. But this pigeon, which you see, has become the last of its species and its kind. The name of this beautiful bird was Martha. She was found lifeless in September 1914. Caspian tiger.
The Caspian tiger. Right? Caspian tiger.
That was the name of this beautiful creature you're seeing now. It successfully inhabited the Caucasus, Transcaucasia, Central Asia, and partly West Asia. But today it lives nowhere else.
Because it is considered extinct as of 1970. As of the 1970s.
The subspecies had a bright red fur with long and brown stripes. In winter, due to the cold snap, the tiger's fur became thicker and fluffier, which allowed it to easily tolerate the cold. At the same time, local people repeatedly spoke about the extreme caution and secrecy of this animal. One could live not far from the habitat of the Caspian tiger for tens of years and never see it. It was this ability to camouflage that created a number of amazing legends and myths around the animal. Many even considered this subspecies a sacred. Many, but not all. There were a number of hunters who were eager to encounter this great predator. Since it was rare and perfectly camouflaged, the price for its fur, as well as for the head, was fabulous.
Jeez, the amount, because of the humans' greed, the tiger, the Caspian tiger, was hunted way too much.
Full-fledged expeditions were organized to capture these animals, and by human efforts, as it usually happens, the animals were gone. The last
us humans just continuously hunt a lot of these animals to extinction.
Individual
As well
died
as
in
climate change, which indirectly causes the animals to become extinct.
1958. People planned to try to restore the subspecies, but preliminary estimates say that it would require a huge territory and many other nuances that are difficult to realize.
Oh no, not another app.
Chinese river dolphin. But it's not only on land that scientists conduct their research and find extinct individuals of different species and families. The same thing can happen underwater. The Chinese river dolphin has not been seen since 2002, which can't help but suggest its extinction. In 2000,
It is currently classified as critically endangered and possibly extinct. It is possibly extinct, so we can't say for certain that it is actually extinct.
2006 and 20.
It has not been seen in 40 years.
2012, there were expeditions to collect data or at least photograph some individuals, but it didn't end with anything successful. Representatives of the species were usually a little more than 6.5 feet long and weighed about 330 pounds. They also had a characteristic long and narrow beak, a pronounced forehead, and a stocky body.
Can we even call this a beak?
Their skin was usually dark gray or brown, while their lower body was white. Despite population declines, these dolphins were top predators in their environment and fed on a variety of fish species, including carp and catfish. They used echolocation to detect prey by emitting high-frequency clicks and listening to reflected echoes. When a large and powerful enemy appeared on the horizon, Chinese river dolphins enlisted the help of their congeners. They were always close to their friends and lived in groups of 2 to 6 individuals. But what, in that case, influenced their extinction, you may ask? I think no one has to guess. It's people, again.
People, man. Humans just hunting stuff.
Affected the capture of fish.
China industrialized and made heavy use of the river for fishing, so that means it's humans striking once again.
That's the main food of the dolphins, as well as the pollution of the water. That is the place where these creatures lived. The disappearance of this species was a real tragedy for the whole of China. After all, it was one of the most iconic species of the Yangtze River, as well as a symbol of the region's rich biodiversity. Heath hen.
I think this is it for part 3. So, yeah. Parts 1, 2, and 3. All not very good. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all in part 4. We're starting off with part 4 with the heath hen.
This feathered creature is very similar to modern grouses, but it was smaller. At one time, the heath hen inhabited almost all of the United States, but the people who lived there got in on the act. The delicious meat, along with the ease of its obtaining, made this creation an ideal target. But don't be too quick to blame it on man again. This time, it wasn't man who played the key role. The cause of the subspecies extinction was a deadly bird disease.
The heath hen had a reputation as poor man's food for being so cheap and plentiful. It's just great food.
Histomoniasis, introduced into the United States. It manifests itself in necrosis of the liver and intestines, which is caused by protozoan organisms.
And also because of humans.
The situation was aggravated by a lot of fires. People tried to restore the population, organized a nature reserve, but 2 cold winters and another batch of fires finally ruined all their plans. Nevertheless, scientists still want to correct the situation and restore the subspecies. However, it's still unclear exactly how they plan to do this. But not only endangered species are considered rare, there are real mutants that are born once in 1,000 years. Two-faced cat. Many pets of any of us would fit this characteristic.
Just put Puss in Boots from Shrek. Casually put in the Puss in Boots from Shrek.
Because our cats are sometimes very sweet and kind, but sometimes they show all their aggressive character and make us nervous.
Critter Club. This clip is from Critter Club, and this is meant to just be some sort of sketch, right? Or some sort of regular entertainment. Nothing wrong with that.
Nevertheless, there is a specific case of a two-faced cat in the literal sense of the word. That is Frank and Louie, a cat with two personalities living in his body. The first, the one that's Frank, sees with only one eye. The other, Louie, can't purr. Despite such an unusual and creepy mutation, the cat lived a record-breaking 15 years.
There we go. It lived around 15 years in just under 3 months.
How did it happen at all that the cat ended up with two faces? Well, the owner gives the following answer in this question.
Mutation.
These cats were victims of a cruel chromosomal mutation called diprosopus, which literally means two-faced in Greek.
So, yeah, it was definitely a mutation. There are no other explanation to this.
Usually, such individuals die quickly, but Frank and Louie were lucky. They turned out to have one functioning brain, which divided the duties between the cats. Also, the cat ended up with only one working mouth and, as a consequence, a common esophagus. Of course, the owner of this creature also brought great benefits for their survival. In fact, we have an example of a story that demonstrates what can be achieved in an alliance between a human and an animal, reinforced by the fortitude of both participants. Eight-legged goat. She was born in northeastern Croatia. As soon as she was born, the farm owner immediately noticed this mutation. He thought he was feeling unwell and asked a neighbor to count the goat's legs. But when the second man said the same thing, the man's fears were confirmed. According to doctors, it was due to some kind of underdevelopment of the goat. Despite the cute appearance it still had, the situation was unfavorable. The most dangerous thing in this case was to survive the first week. If all is well after that, there are chances of living a few more years or even more. However, there's no way to know the end of the story because there's no information about the.
This eight-legged goat had both male and female reproductive organs.
You know, usually I have a positive attitude, but here, seeing how the goat's not just barely on her feet, but barely lying down, I think things are bad. Croco buffalo. This creature was called
Croco buffalo, but you called it a Croco buffalo for whatever reason.
Something like that when it was first spotted in Thailand.
It's hideous!
Oh, come on. You're now showing Shrek and then Lord Farquaad. Lord Farquaad from Shrek.
Oh, that's not very nice. It's just a donkey.
Movie clips.
Of course, I've heard a lot about that country in Asia with its rich culture and stuff, but not to this extent. This creature has scaly skin like a reptile and a head like a crocodile. Nevertheless, if eyewitnesses are to be believed, we're looking at a baby buffalo. The birth of such a strange creature raises many questions, and none of the scientists have answers to. How could the creature come from a buffalo and have scales with an elongated snout?
Mutation.
It's unclear. In any case, the inhabitants of the village where the creature was found hope that it will bring them happiness and good luck.
Because humans, cultures, man. Well, cultures have come up with all of these stuff, luck stuff. You know, I'm not trying to be xenophobic here. I'm just pointing that out.
Now, that's what I call the right attitude. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everyone knows this actor and award-winning bodybuilder, but if this man is a star among humans, this dog is a kind of Schwarzenegger of the animal world. You're looking at Big Wendy, a dog whose appearance is very far from the long, thin members of the hound dog breed. This dog was born with a genetic disorder that made her look like an incredibly enormous greyhound.
Oh. Can we really call that Big Wendy dog Arnold Schwarzenegger?
At the same time, her head, heart, lungs, and feet were the same size as those of a normal whippet, a breed that Wendy just happened to be. The dog weighed several times more than her congeners and also stood out because of her enormous muscles.
Because of a genetic mutation called myostatin mutation, particular to whippets, causing them to have double the muscles.
Usually, any defect leads to a shortened lifespan, but that isn't the case with Wendy. The dog lived 14 years, just like the average whippet, and passed away in 2017. Birdfish. If these creatures really existed and were considered the norm, would they prey on regular fish? Be sure to write your guesses in the comments below the video once you get a closer look at this birdfish. It was discovered somewhere in China. This fish had the head of a pigeon. At first, it might have looked like the fish was trying to eat the feathered creature, but things soon began to fall into place. The creature was a mutant. Surprisingly, the mutant had been fished out of the water, which meant that it still existed in its own world. No matter how stunned the fishermen were, they still released the fish back into the water and posted the video on the internet. Another kind of fisherman. This time it happened in Japan.
Another find a fisherman. Not really kind, but you get what I mean.
A group of friends noticed this strange creature, which at first glance resembles a jellyfish. But people couldn't find out what exactly it was. You have to admit that this creature looks very creepy, and it's unlikely anyone would want to come in contact with it. But if the appearance scares you, then you haven't seen what's under the body of this creature yet. There's something there that resembles the pink eye of Sauron, or something equally epic.
That is
I don't know how to even commentate on this.
Evil there that does not sleep, and the great eye is ever watchful.
It shrinks and gives you the chills all over your body from the first seconds. After making the fisherman speechless with astonishment, the creature decided not to stop, and soon did what few would have expected. First, some kind of liquid shot out of that Sauron's eye, and then the creature exploded in front of people.
Also, these creatures, like Wendy the dog, mutated creatures. Can we say that they are quote-unquote extinct? Because these are just mutations and not new species.
Showering them with a strange liquid. I think that each of you has seen whales in your life. Some have encountered them on the internet in various exciting or informative videos, and some have been lucky enough to see them in person. Nevertheless, if you think that encountering an ordinary whale is a big rarity, then you have no idea how rare an encounter with a white whale is. In the entire history of such whales, only a few individuals have been recorded. One of them was nicknamed Migaloo. The whale was spotted off the coast of the Australian state of New South Wales. This white beauty was first discovered in 1991. He became famous for his unusual appearance. Unlike
This albino stuff mutation, right? I think I know a little bit about that. He was either suffering from true albinism or was hypopigmented, leucistic.
black whales, he has a completely white color. A cat with wings. That's what you can jokingly call your favorite furry pet that jumps and hops everywhere it can, breaking furniture and making you worry.
Winged cat.
But if it's a metaphor in that case, I'll show you a real cat with wings. It was born in a Chinese town. At first, it seemed most ordinary, but after a month, the kitten had bumps on its back. The breeder, in front of whom all this was happening, immediately took the animal to the vet, but the latter was powerless. Moreover, even the blood tests showed that the animal was fine.
And there were no wings in this.
Still, the breeder saw with her own eyes that something was wrong with the animal. These very bumps grew along with the cat as it grew older. Amazingly, the pet could wave them around, creating the illusion of flight. There are quite a few theories about this mutation, but according to the main one, it's a genetic disease called cutaneous asthenia.
Cutaneous asthenia. Asthenia. Cutaneous asthenia. The collagen effect. There we go.
disease causes the skin on the back of animals
abnormal elasticity, stretching, and improper healing of the skin
to become too elastic and twisted. Hit the like button if at least one of these rare animals surprised you. And while you're doing that, I'll move on to the second part of this video, in which I'll tell you about various rare animals, of which there are only a few around the world.
And this video just
This is our Model 10 bracelet.
Click.
It wasn't the first piece I made.
There are so-called vaquitas in this world. According to scientists, there are fewer than a dozen of them left in the wild. They're considered the smallest cetaceans in the world. The main reason why there are so few animals of this species is that they're simply caught by nets. These porpoises
These guys are critically endangered, not extinct.
are among 100 most evolutionarily unique and endangered species. The evolutionary uniqueness implies that this species has no close relatives, hence the importance of protecting the species. Rhino.
There are stuff like harbor porpoise, so yeah.
Another creature that's not particularly rare without a description of a particular species. What else is there to say? In the case of the rhino, there can be no rarity at all, unless we consider the Sumatran rhinoceros. Before humans entered their lives, they lived all over Southeast Asia. But as soon as we appeared, the population of this species began to decline.
It is also critically endangered.
And now has about 300 individuals. Of course, the first and main reason for this is poaching. For example, the price of horn is estimated at $30,000 per 2 pounds.
It's because humans, once again.
Isn't that a sweet price for poachers without moral principles? These creatures, by the way, are the smallest member of the rhinoceros family, which also makes it difficult for them to survive in such a difficult environment. Araripe mannequin.
Alright, I think we can end part 4 here. I don't think we should call this the dumbest paleontology video of all time anymore. We'll probably just call it... I don't know what to call it, but like, I'll figure it out. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoy it. See you on the next one. With yet another and critically endangered species. Hello. Load.
Unusual, to say the least, doesn't it? I bet most of you have never heard of such a bird in your life. I'd love to talk more about this little beauty, but I don't think we can, since there isn't enough information about it. The bird is extremely rare and, moreover, was discovered only in 1996. At the beginning of the 21st century, scientists had only 50 individuals of this species. Positive news is that after a few years, the numbers increased by 5 times, but it's not definitely a positive trend. These birds live quite long, about 14 years. Their size is tiny. They feed mainly on plants and small fruits, and of course, on insects. It's curious to observe how this bird eats some food larger in size than itself. The males of this species are quite attractive. Their snow-white plumage and red crest are very harmoniously combined to make this rare and small bird quite noticeable. Let's have a look at ice-frozen animals. Frozen animal.
Not another one of those cartoons.
How do you imagine?
Legitimately just the Ice Age. It's just the Ice Age all over again.
A frozen animal. Personally, I think that to encounter them in full growth in a cube of ice like this is something incredible. After all, every living organism will resist until its last breath, trying to get out, not to stand still and freeze. Nevertheless, this shot went viral on the internet, and many people...
let's see. Let's go back. Hello?
Trying to get out, not to stand still and freeze. Nevertheless...
This feels edited. This feels just artificial, as you can see. Just look at the ice cube over here. And look at the animal enclosed in it.
This shot went viral on the internet, and many people say that it's genuine. What do you think? Could an animal really freeze in such a pose, or is it nothing more than a fake? Share your thoughts in the comments. Cave lion. A subspecies of these animals has long been considered extinct. Despite this, they were once incredibly formidable and powerful. Scientists believe that this may have been the largest of all lions in history. Studying those who are long gone is a bit problematic.
Is it? Okay. The Panthera atrox, right?
So scientists are constantly exploring different territories. So they managed to stumble upon the mummy of a lion cub of the subspecies, which was more than 28,000 years old. They found the little one in snowy Siberia. Due to the fact that the remains were in ice, they were perfectly preserved. So much so that people could even see its whiskers. The found individual was named Sparta, and studies about it were published in scientific articles. It's said that this...
And this is after it went extinct.
Discovery was not limited to the whiskers alone. Together with them, the animal's internal organs, skin, hair, and soft tissues were found in almost perfect condition. Yucca. This is the name of a unique mummy of a young mammoth, which was discovered in 2010, 19 miles west of the mouth of the Kondrativo River in Siberia. The height of the individual exceeds 5 feet. The length of the body from the base of the trunk to the tail is 6.7 feet. Found in almost perfect condition, which was discovered in 20. A unique mummy of a young mammoth, which was
It's a mummy
Yucca.
of a mammoth.
This is the name of a unique mummy of a young mammoth, which was discovered in 2010, 19 miles west of the mouth of the Kondrativo River in Siberia. The height of the individual exceeds 5 feet. The length of the body from the base of the trunk to the tail is 6.7 feet. The tail of the female mammoth is short, and she weighed about 1,100 pounds when she was alive. According to preliminary estimates, the creature died more than 28,000 years ago when she was only 6 to 9 years old. The uniqueness
Not another one of those Ice Age cartoon clips.
of the find is that Yucca's soft tissues and fur are perfectly preserved. Again, it's all thanks to the permafrost. On the animal's skin, there were multiple marks from bites and cuts by other predators. Perhaps this was the cause of the death of the mammoth. But the most surprising thing to me is the animal's brain. Despite the fact that it had lain in the ice for thousands of years, it was similar to the brain of a recently deceased animal. Research on Yucca has provided information about the specific features of the mammoth brain and other psychomotor functions of these extinct animals. The ancient colony of Adelie penguins. The Adelie penguin is considered one of the most common penguin species. Its name comes from the
Adelie penguin. Adelie penguin. This penguin, not extinct, by the way.
life of the French navigator
Least concern.
and explorer Jules Dumont d'Urville, whose expedition in 1840 discovered Adelie Land in Antarctica, where a large number of these birds were found. Since then, scientists have carefully studied these individuals and found nothing special about them. However, recently they still found those representatives of the species, which can lift the veil of mystery. After all, I'm talking about an ancient colony, which is about 5,000 years old. The mummified bodies were lying on pebbles and were mixed with the bones and feathers of other birds.
They don't count as going extinct, by the way. Also, the portraits, the photos of the cave lion and the woolly mammoth mummies, they were taken long after the cave lion and the mammoth went extinct.
What's amazing is that all the objects found looked incredibly fresh, as if they'd gone to the other world no more than 5 to 10 years ago. However, since 1901, when Cape Irizar was discovered, Adelie penguins have never nested here. Although colonies of these birds are located throughout the Ross Sea and total about 1 million pairs, Cape Irizar is inaccessible to them due to the presence of permanent ice floes. In the past, however, it became clear that this was not the case. The birds were constantly changing their place of residence and sometimes did not have time to move to more favorable areas. I wonder if the individuals found are different from those that walk on our planet today. What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. By the way, do you want to know an interesting fact? It's the Adelie penguin that's depicted on the famous Linux operating system.
Oh no. The Model 10 bracelet.
This is our Model 10 bracelet. It wasn't the first piece I made.
Wolf. To see the next interesting find, we'll have to travel to northwest of Canada, where people found the oldest mummy of a wolf pup. It's perfectly preserved, even though it's lain in the ice.
Is it meant to be a dire wolf?
For more than 57,000 years. Preliminary analysis of the body showed that the creature died in an unusual way. The entrance to its cave was suddenly blocked, and the pup gone to the other world due to a lack of oxygen. It was possible to discover the remains of this unusual creature only thanks to global warming, which led to the melting of the territories. As it turned out, the remains of the animal were unprecedentedly well preserved. It's possible to examine in detail and study the skin, fur, and teeth. Only the eyes are missing for completeness. Ancient dog.
Ancient dog.
In 2018, Russian scientists, together with a Swiss expedition, conducted joint excavations in Siberia. During the excavations, they managed to discover something that no one expected to see at all. It was the body of an ancient and dangerous predator, similar to a dog. Initial analyses showed that this creature died more than 18,000 years ago, even before the domestication of dogs took place. As far as is known, it was at this time that genetic changes began to occur in the bodies of the ancient wolves, which caused the origin of dogs.
That's meant to be a wolf, and then there's a dog. Okay.
Even after a thorough DNA test, scientists were unable to determine whether the ancient animal was a wolf or a dog. Despite this, everything points to the fact that we have one of the oldest dogs in history, discovered by humans.
Just call it a canine if you don't know if it's a wolf or a dog.
The puppy died at the age of a few months. The cause of death remained unknown. Such a young individual will play into the hands of researchers because, with its help, they'll be able to study the history of the origin of dogs more thoroughly. There must be something in it that we don't know yet. Dragon. And now let's take a look at a much...
No, not the dragon. Dragons don't even exist. They're just mythical creatures. Just look at the Chinese dragon, aka the long as some people might call it. And also the medieval dragons.
Older find, which is about 110 million years old. Scientists in Queensland have found a brand new pterosaur species. It's believed to be
It's not a dragon, therefore.
far from the largest possible species. But even it had a 3.2-foot skull and a wingspan of about 23 feet. Despite such large wings, other evidence suggests that the prehistoric real dragon was not well adapted to flight, which
Prehistoric real dragon. This is so stupid. Okay.
only adds mysteries to the investigation of these remains. It's likely that the dragon spent most of its time on land, and its abnormally large mouth allowed it to easily grab any prey running away from it. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when it comes to penguins? Let me put it another way. What does this creature look like in your head? It's probably small, cute enough, black and white, running along the shore and flopping from one side to the other, right? And what if I tell you that in the past, a 330-pound representative of these flightless seabirds lived on the planet? For you to understand, it's 3 times the size of large, modern emperor penguins. The giant was the undisputed winner in the history of large penguin sightings. The only frustrating thing is that it was not possible to accurately determine its size. The fragmented skeleton makes it impossible to say anything for sure, but it's assumed that such a giant was at least 5 feet tall. And if we take into account the fact that in those times there were no dinosaurs, few animals would compete with this bird. However, this only confuses me once again.
The thing is, this penguin is here is, this penguin over here, penguins, they're still technically dinosaurs, just in the form of birds.
And because why, in that case, could these powerful creatures disappear from the face of the earth? It will eat whoever it wants.
No! Not the Indominus Rex from Jurassic World. The Indominus Rex is a hybrid.
I think that phrase would be perfect for this huge dinosaur, which remains were found near Canada in the late 20th century. It's believed that this monster could have been much stronger than T-Rex, those great prehistoric predators from books and movies. Decided to make the species even more epic and came up with a name that translates as Reaper of Death.
Reaper of Death.
This is a clear hint that the predator had great strength and attacked both herbivores and other predators. We can say that it was at the very top of the food chain, and it had almost no enemies.
Oh my god. What is happening?
Itself decided the fate of others. According to scientists' estimates, the individual they found was about 8.2 feet tall, and its length from the tip of the nose to the tail was about 26 feet. Besides, this predator had terrible 3-inch long, razor-sharp teeth and incredible jaws, which were able to grab and not let go even another dinosaur equal to it in terms of size.
Incredibly traumatizing.
Along with this, the found individual had a number of features, the purpose of which scientists have...
It's just incredibly traumatizing to hear these sentences in a supposedly educational video.
...not yet even guessed. For example, on its upper jaw, Reaper of Death had vertical ridges, and its eye sockets were oddly shaped, with strongly swollen edges. Now, let's talk about armadillos.
Okay. Glad we got out of that. There we go. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all in part 6. Part 6, aka the final part.
But not the mammals that live today, but their ancestors that were the size of a car. The remains were...
I should have seen it coming. The Doedicurus, the Glyptodon, the Panoxos, whatever.
...discovered in Argentina in 2020. They were completely covered with a shell, and the total weight exceeded the usual one dozens of times.
That's definitely a Doedicurus.
The average length of those individuals, judging by the remains found, was 10 feet. They were protected by a thick shell consisting of numerous bony plates joined together. The head also had a small shield.
Thinking, if it's even a Doedicurus, it's probably not even a Doedicurus.
Made of the same plates. The tail
Might be Doedicurus.
had a similar defense mixed with spikes to attack. While modern armadillos, in case of danger, curl up into a ball and hide in the bushes, their distant ancestors could fight back, waving their tail like a spiked baton.
That's not the case for Glyptodon. Because Glyptodon doesn't have that spiky tail on its back.
And now let's talk about the creatures that scientists have recently discovered under the ice of Antarctica. Creatures unknown to science. In February 2021, a research group made a very...
This video is titled 100 Less Known Photos of Animals That Went Extinct. Now, let's recap here. There are not 100 photos. There's definitely fewer than 100 photos. Also, a lot of these animals aren't even extinct. Or have been extinct long before photos were a thing.
Very interesting discovery that attracted not only the scientific community. After all, 260 kilometers from the open ocean at a depth of 900 meters under the ice and at a temperature of negative 2.2 degrees Celsius, in complete darkness, you can rarely find signs of anything alive. But scientists from the British Antarctic Survey were able to find unknown creatures in Antarctica's glaciers.
What is it?
Researchers were working on the Filchner-Ronne ice shelf, located in West Antarctica. To learn its history, they needed bottom sediments. The head of the geological team, geologist James Smith, ordered to drill a deep tunnel from where these samples could be taken. So the researchers heated almost a kilometer-long well with
Tomo News. I remember watching these guys. I remember watching Tomo News and just thinking they're credible and all. I guess they are. Sort of.
hot water, where they lowered a sampling tool along with an action camera to record what was happening. But they were unable to get material from the seabed. The tool kept bumping into a huge boulder. This surprised the researchers,
Using a meme.
especially when they found a variety of fauna underneath it. It looked like sponges. The scientists had more questions than they could answer. For example, what do they eat under the thickness of lifeless ice? How long such an ecosystem was hidden from human eyes? And if such boulders are covered with organisms anywhere else? One of the group's scientists, Hugh Griffiths, called the discovery a happy accident
There are no accidents.
that could influence the future direction of research and show that Antarctic marine life, which is characterized by such extreme conditions, is even more striking than we thought. This is the first colony of sea creatures known to science found under an ice shelf. The find is at odds with traditional notions of what might inhabit these places. To answer all these questions, scientists need to take a closer look
Sorry about the
of
cutoff. I had
what
to
might inhabit
eat
these
lunch.
places. To answer all these questions, scientists need to take a closer look at the organisms. And to do this, they need to bring them to the surface without damaging them. That's quite a challenge since it requires special tools or more innovative ways to examine them. In 2019, the New Zealand research vessel RV Tangaroa embarked on a 50-day voyage across the Antarctic Ocean and to the shores of Antarctica.
I'm not sure what this video
During this
is meant
time, they
to be
managed to
anymore.
lift something unusual from the Antarctic depths. According to one of the research team members, they lowered the equipment to a depth of 3,500 meters. The camera showed an almost lifeless bottom surface, somewhat reminiscent of the Martian surface. But upon
Martian surface. How do you even compare that? I mean, Mars has water, but it's all in the poles now.
closer inspection, the researchers spotted living creatures that had not previously been recorded off the coast of Antarctica. In addition, 12 buckets of mud were lifted from the bottom to the surface. Only one living creature was found in this dirt. The researchers confessed they couldn't say exactly what species this transparent and slimy alien belongs to. It's
Alien. Basically every animal over here. We still haven't discovered a lot yet. Obviously, excluding Megalodon because the Megalodon went extinct. However, we still haven't discovered much of the ocean yet. So it's cool to see some of the more weird-looking animals that are able to adapt to their own environments.
unclear how many more such aliens could be there. Hoff crab. American researchers from the University of Southampton have discovered an amazing creature in Antarctica, a crab. But what's so unusual about it? This Hoff crab is the third species of Yeti crab known to mankind. Its relatives were discovered in 2005 and 2006. The Hoff crab happens to be representative of a new third species of Yeti crab. They were spotted as early as 20. Its relatives were discovered in 2005 and 2006. The Hoff crab happens to be representative of a new third species of Yeti crab. They were spotted as early.
Right?
This what's so in Antarctica? A crab have discovered an amazing creature. At least the Hoff crab happens to be representative of a new third species of Yeti crab. They were spotted as early as 2010 near hydrothermal vents in Antarctica, in the area of the East Ridge of Squash. They closely settled around each hot spring, and their density could be as high as 700 individuals per square meter. Only now, however, have scientists confirmed by genetic analysis that these plush toy-like representatives of crustaceans do indeed belong to an entirely new and interesting species.
These guys, they are not extinct as of now. So why put them in a video which supposedly states that these creatures are extinct?
The name Hoff was disseminated by the media. It was given in honor of the actor David Hasselhoff, known for the TV series Baywatch. The fact that this crab, unlike its specific relatives, has the thickest hair on the underside of the body. The author of the study, Nikolai Roderman, compared it to the actor's hairy chest. According to him, it was the first name that came to mind, and it just fit right. The correct name of the crab is Kiwi tyleri. By the way, the Hoff crab doesn't look so hairy because it actually has its own fur.
It's called Kiwi tyleri.
It's these special dense bristles with which it scrapes off its main food, namely the microbial mats around the springs. These bristles also allow it to grow bacteria on itself, which it periodically scrapes off itself and eats. Eulogisca gigantea. Antarctica's waters are also home to such a creepy creature. It's a 20-centimeter long scale worm that has an oval body with golden, shiny bristles.
Again, this is not an extinct creature.
A sharp tooth protrudes from the mouth of this miniature monster. Let's begin with the
miniature monster. Every time I see someone calling animals monsters, I just jump in fear.
Bristles. According to experts, it has many uses. It performs the function of fins, small feet for moving on the bottom, and even the function of armor. Do you agree that this is quite original and convenient? What may be mistaken for a head is actually a folding throat, which is so thoughtfully hidden under the bristles. Perhaps the worst thing about this worm is that it's poorly studied. Its diet is not exactly known. Scientists don't yet know if it's a predator or not. Most marine biologists are of the opinion that the worm is a scavenger. No wonder the decomposition of organic matter is difficult in cold waters due to low temperatures. Therefore, the worm can be considered an important link in the ecology. White-blooded fish.
Is it really a decomposer when it does it convert other organic materials besides itself? Does it convert them into inorganic materials?
The white-blooded fish is a truly unique phenomenon in the world fauna. Such unearthly creatures, which are up to 60 to 70 centimeters long.
It's called a crocodile ice fish. It can also be called a white-blooded fish, though.
Puzzle people. The fact that they're not called white-blooded for nothing. Unlike all vertebrates, their blood is not red but colorless. This is because it almost completely absent red blood cells and hemoglobin. Blood of this fish without hemoglobin can carry only 10% of the oxygen that's usually transported by red blood cells of their closest relatives. To compensate for this, they've developed a large heart, an enhanced vascular system, and the ability to produce antifreeze proteins that allow them to swim in cold Antarctic waters without freezing. These fish have
This just so happens to be evolution. Evolution just goes in
to pump huge volumes of blood to deliver enough oxygen to all tissues and organs. Scotoplanes. Scotoplanes is the one case when the creature looks as if it came to Earth from some other planet. They are found at great depths, usually more than a kilometer or more. Since their life takes place in complete darkness, they have a colorless and sometimes completely transparent body. It has outgrowths, which are generally in large tubes protruding from the body. A large number of tentacles are located around the mouth of scotoplanes. Thanks to them, there's a constant scanning at the bottom and further eating of the found. In addition to these organisms, they don't mind to eat carrion. They have a fairly good sense of smell, which allows them to detect the decomposing carcass in complete darkness. Scotoplanes play quite an important role in the life of their ecosystem.
Alright.
By the way, these sea creatures prefer to live in groups.
Oh, come on. And,
Sea lily.
And just like the last two, it isn't extinct. Neither are the sea lilies.
Sea lilies. Sea lilies, or crinoids, have also been found in the Antarctic waters. They belong to the echinoderm phylum. Sea lilies have a small body with rays called arms radiating from it. Antarctic sea lilies differ from most of their congeners in that they're much denser and, one might say, more ornate than others. Antarctic sea lilies can have up to 20 rays, not 5 as is often the case with others. Sea lilies are quite motile creatures that mainly feed on phytoplankton. Organism 46b. Organism 46b is the name of a giant killer octopus that was recently discovered by Russian scientists in the subglacial Lake Vostok in Antarctica.
This is just big.
Organism 46b is a rather large squid-like creature, which is about 10 meters long. Moreover, this creature, with a dozen tentacles, is very aggressive.
This video, as I can tell, does not have a clear identity on what it wants to be. Like, does it want to be a clickbait video, or does it want to be a legitimate video? I just wasted 1 hour more than 1 hour because I had to give some comments about it.
It can paralyze the victim from a distance of 45 meters by releasing powerful venom into the water. Research Station Vostok was founded in 1957 to observe and study the ecosystem of Antarctica. Years later, polar researchers discovered a lake near the station under the multi-kilometer thickness of the ice. The surface of the lake was not reached until February 2012. Drilling was completed at a depth of 3,767 meters. The encounter with the creature called Organism 4.
I'm kind of being a nitpicky here, but like 3,768, the text says that. You said 3,767.
46b occurred sometime between 2012 and 2016, with no more exact dates. It attacked the team during a dive. The creature even took the form of a human being. The divers were certain that one of their colleagues was swimming towards them. Once the creature had assumed its true form, and it was clear that it was a very new organism, 46b, before them, one of the team managed to cut off one of the beast's tentacles. Nevertheless, it cost him his life. After a desperate struggle with the creepy creature,
This is definitely not Organism 46b.
the team finally managed to capture the giant octopus and imprison it in a special tank. Organism 46b killed at least 2 members of the expedition. The surviving team members raised the tank with the creature to the surface, but the authorities deprived the scientists of the great discovery, took the monster to their place, and lucidly explained to the scientists that no one should know anything. That's all, guys.
Soviet Union was... Because the Soviet Union was authoritarian and kleptocratic and all of that, the Soviet Union is just... And there's all those corruption cases. There's all those stuff that happened in the Soviet Union. It just wasn't great at all.
Which Antarctic creature surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.
Okay.
Live
1 hour long. It gave us the illusion that it's going to be stupidly, it's going to actually be legitimate 100 photos, but it's just clickbait. I speculate there was only like 30 or something, and that's pretty much it. Glad that's over. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all next time.